All right, guys, we are here. We're going live. We've got the Open Championship. Just been going to go over the picks from DraftKings, FanDuel, and Yahoo. Going to give you the GPP breakdowns and the value plays for all those slates. We're going to touch on the Barbasol Championship just slightly. As always, if you guys have any questions, make sure to ask them during the live stream, and I'll be happy to answer them. I already have a few from the patrons, and I'll touch on those throughout the video. Just some popular questions that I've seen. So let's get it kicked off here. We'll do a recap of the core plays video. All right, so just doing the recap of the core plays video. A lot of it still holds true. There are some people that I wanted to touch on here. The first one is actually going to be Brooks Koepka. So Brooks Koepka is one of the players that the more information I get on him, the less I want to fade him, and the more I want to play him. You just keep hearing the stuff. So his caddy is familiar with the course, that story. Then I just keep looking at all the secondary stats for this week, and he just is like top 10 in all of them. When I'm talking about cold weather, length style courses, rain, wind, he ranks as one of the top players in all of those. So I'm starting to get on Brooks Koepka quite a bit, and you look at his stat fit, he's a really good stat fit, and I think I'm going to start to give him a projected finish of around top 10. All right, let's get back into the player pool here. So I already touched on it. Roy, I really like. I think you guys already know that. Justin Rose, I think I'm going to be fine with as a play. He does play pretty well on these length style courses, so if you want to roll with him, you definitely can. Tommy Fleetwood, I see a lot of people talking him up. You can play him if you want to. I'm not sure I want to play Tommy Fleetwood, but if you did, I wouldn't blame you. He's really good at scrambling and sand safe, so those secondary stats he's really good at. He's 12th in strokes gained total. Not going to be a bad play. I still really like Xander and Patrick Cantlay. Those two plays are going to be great plays for you at their price points. Really across the industry, you can get away with playing those guys no matter what. Going a little bit lower here. I still really like Adam Scott and Matt Kuchar. I do think they're going to be really popular. I think in cash, you almost just have to play them. The one player I wanted to bring up, though, and point out is actually going to be Hideki Matsuyama. So Hideki, the reason why I didn't like him, obviously I liked him, but the reason why I was thinking about fading him originally is because his 8K range is just loaded. You got Adam Scott, Matt Kuchar, Jason Day, Henrik Stenson, Paul Casey. Then you even got Gary Woodland, Matt Wallace, and Louis Oosthuizen. Those guys are all great plays. But then again, so is Hideki. His recent form is great. His lowest finish is T21. So, I don't think I can fade Hideki. The only worry here is his open history, miscut, T14, miscut. He is a top 10 stat fit, and I do give him a projection of a T25 or better. But the only worry with Hideki is his putter. But still, I was looking at the secondary stats that I'll pull up here in a little bit, and he was really popping for me, so I do like Hideki. All right, getting back into the player pool here. Going a little bit lower than Hideki, Henrik Stenson, I really like. He has that great open history. He's been playing phenomenal. I think you just got to roll with Henrik Stenson if you can. Paul Casey, great ball striker, great total driver, great in strokes gained total, but so is Gary Woodland. And I don't think Gary Woodland's getting as talked up as Paul Casey. I know Gary Woodland has kind of struggled since he won, but you kind of expect that, to be honest with you. Like, there hasn't been a major since, and he wouldn't care as much, honestly, after winning the U.S. Open. So I do expect Gary Woodland to go out and play well as well. Those two guys, Paul Casey and Gary Woodland, you really wouldn't be surprised if they're finished top 10 or even contend for the lead, okay? But I still don't want them too much because my strategy each week is to get 6 for 6 across the cut line, and those two don't give me that much exact confidence that they're going to be able to do that, but still not bad plays. I could see them as like 15% ownership for me this week. Going a little bit lower, Louis Oosthuizen and Graham McDowell. Both plays I don't mind, both around 15%. Mark Leishman I like a lot because he's a really good weather player. I've already touched on that a little bit. Let's pull up some of the secondary stats that I've been talking about. All right, so some of them that I've been talking about, rain specialist, so it's looking like it's going to rain the first 2 days. Maybe the whole weekend, we'll have to see about that. A lot of people have been asking about weather and how that would affect my player pool. It's not really affecting my player pool whatsoever, and that's just because I had already been factoring in stuff like link style specialist, rain specialist, wind specialist, and whatever else we can get in there, hard course. So We're looking at cold weather specialists a little bit. It's supposed to be around 50, not too bad. But obviously, Justin Rose, Rory, they're normal. They're used to playing in that. Hideki, players like that, they're used to that. And link style courses, I like all those guys. One guy that's not featured in these a lot, but was, like top 20-ish is Kevin Streelman, Matt Kuchar. Those two were right around being on this list, but they just weren't good enough. I just went with the top players. Louis Oosthuizen for, low value option, especially driving accuracy matters. Louis Oosthuizen is one of the most accurate drivers we know, so I could definitely see, Louis going out and having a good week. He's always kind of one of those guys that goes under the radar. He's been playing well in majors recently, so I do really like Louis as a play. Not going to be a bad play. So that's just kind of the additional stats that we're looking at this week. You can pull from that what you want to, but, it's really showing me that Brooks Koepka, Henrik Stenson, Mark Leishman are all going to be great plays. And then you kind of got those other guys that are just floating around there that I also like, that I might have ownership to as well. That's kind of for you guys to decide, though. All right, getting back into the DraftKings side of things, I want to touch on one value play. That's going to be Andrew Putnam here. So let me pull up his stats real quick. But Andrew Putnam has just been popping for me. You look at his recent form, it's great. T4, T57, T43, and a T17. Mixed in there was a result at the U.S. Open, so he did perform well at his last major. The stat fits wise, he's not the best, but he's not too bad. He's a top 45 stat fits, which for the field, not too bad. I do have him projected to make the cut, which is all you're really looking for from a value play. I really don't mind him at that price point. Something that I'd be willing to take the risk on, especially if I was trying to get someone like Brooks or like Rory into my builds. I think Putnam would be one of those GPP options that I'd just roll with. All right, let's get into the FanDuel plays now. And as always, if you guys have questions, feel free to fire them off, and I'll be happy to answer them. One thing I should touch on, though, first, I've been getting a lot of questions about Showdown slates and kind of what I do with that. So to address that, the Showdown slates, I need to start getting better at playing them on day one. Because on day one, my player pool seems to dominate, and the salaries, they match up. So on day one, I'm going to start playing a little bit more on the Showdown slate so I can win some more money. But then after that, day two, maybe in the weekend slate, I kind of just adjust accordingly with my player pool. So we'll be able to tell when a player is, due to regress back to the mean. So let's just throw a name out there. Let's say, let me think of one. Someone like Patrick Cantlay goes out and has a horrible day one. Patrick Cantlay is the best stat fit in the field. Okay, if he goes out and has a horrible day one, you can expect that he would at least have a better day two, and he's going to be low on because people don't really think like this. So because he has a bad day one, it's more likely that he'll have a good day two because the stats tell us that, his recent form tells us that, and his overall tour history says that he's a good player and should be able to play well. I typically like to target those players then. And obviously if we have a low owned value option that's playing well after day one and day two, I kind of like to continue to target those players. But typically if there's a guy in my core plays or my high exposure, I'll just keep trying to play those guys in the Showdown or weekend slates and then adjust accordingly. There's some GPP plays that I highlight on the Patreon page or even throughout these videos a little bit that would tell you those guys are playing well. Obviously, they're GPP plays, but if they're playing well, I can think about playing them. So that's kind of my strategy, and I've done pretty well on the Showdown slates, kind of using that strategy. Do I worry about Cantlay? He never plays overseas, so yeah, I am a little bit worried about that. But he had a T12 here or at the tournament last year, so I do worry about it a little bit. But just looking at the stats, it's just something that I'm willing to take that risk. Now, maybe in GPPs, you might want to scale back a little bit, but he's just such a good stat fit. The T12 last year always performs well on the high caliber tournaments, and he's just a good player at a pretty decent price for what he's done. So I do like Cantlay, but I'm not going to lie, I am slightly worried that he doesn't have more, overseas exposure, but still, I like him as a play. What about Jazz? No, I don't like him. I've seen him getting talked up quite a bit. Let me pull him up, see if I can pull him up here. I don't get it. He does have an awesome name, and I could pronounce it last week, but now I can't, so I'm not going to try to. I'm not going to be playing him. I know some people do, but touching on the FanDuel plays here, I think if you're looking for that price range, I'd rather go with Wilson there. He's in some really good current form, a little bit cheaper, so you can adjust your build a little bit better. I like Lorenzo Vera on FanDuel. He's pretty cheap there. And then Webb Simpson, Rafa, and Kuchar. I think you're getting them all at a discount. I do like those plays. Actually, FanDuel is pretty easy to make your builds the way you want to, as they have been for about the past month. You like stars and scrubs strategy or balance? The whole AK range makes me think balance will be the way to go. So yeah, I do think that balance will be the way to go this week, especially in cash, which is always our main focus. But we always do want to get the most people across the cut as we can. So I do like pulling from that AK range. And honestly, that's been the most profitable strategy this whole year, is going with the fair and balanced approach. It's just been the way to go this whole year. Now, you can get away with it. I think you might want to kind of go stars and scrubs in GPPs a little bit more, but not too much. And kind of my thought process around that is maybe going up to someone like Xander, maybe going up to someone like Rose if you can, and then going down to, if I'm looking at the below 7K range, we got Rafa down there. He seems like a great play. Lee Westwood, decent. Who's another one? Jim Furyk I really like. Eric Van Rooyen I like. Lorenzo Vera I like. So there are some decent plays down there. Kevin Streelman's not too bad. So it's kind of just what you want to do. It's more risky, I think, if you go studs and duds or stars and scrubs. But it's definitely more safe if you go with the balanced approach, especially AK to a little bit below AK, because you have someone like Webb Simpson there as well, who's I really like this week. All right. Are you weighing fairways gain more now that the wind and rough are going to be major factors? Yeah. Oh, hey, what's up, big? What's up, man? Yeah, I saw that on the Patreon page. So what the wind is telling me is, I'm looking at win stat, actually. I didn't pull that up on the additional stats, but I am looking at some really good win players. I'm focusing on that. And typically what those are going to be guys that are really good ball strikers and kind of total drivers. So that's kind of where I'm getting that from. Hey, new subscriber. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. But yeah, that's kind of my main focus. But I am looking at players that actually perform well in the wind. So to indirectly answer your questions, that's what I'm looking at. I'm not really looking at fairways gained or any. I don't really look at that stuff. I look at long-term stats more so. So that's where I'm going with that. Adam Scott, Matt Kuchar, Decky, Simpson, Stenson. Yeah, I think that's good FanDuel cash build. I'm kind of worried. It seems like, I don't know if it's just 9 to 5 nations making some really solid builds, or if those are just popular across the whole industry. Now, we really don't have to worry about ownership with majors, but I am slightly worried because it seems like everyone is on the same ones. And I think that might just be 9 to 5 nation. I hope that's what it is, because I don't want anyone else benefiting like we do with builds like that. It's a really good build though, Jeremy. Are Fleetwood and Rose being overlooked? So I like Rose a lot this week. I do think Fleetwood's being overlooked a little bit. And honestly, I think it's just a price point thing with Fleetwood. He's just priced at that point where if you're at that price point, you'd rather just try to get up to someone like Brooks, I know, or like Justin Rose, honestly, or you'd rather just drop down to Xander or Patrick Cantlay. I think that's the problem with Fleetwood. But I think he's a fine play, plays well on link style courses. He plays well across the season. Now, he hasn't been playing there as much this year, but really not a bad play. Do you like Xander? Hey, thanks for the support, Zihan. I think I said that right. Apologize if I didn't. Do you like Kuchar or Xander this week? Yeah, I like those both. On Yahoo, you can really easily fit them in. And let's pull up Yahoo here since you touched on it. All right. Also, Stenson or Webb. I think I would rather go with Stenson. That's a tough one. But yeah, I think I'd rather go with Stenson. Kuchar or Xander. I think I'd go with Kuchar. Honestly, he seems safer. You worried about burnout because, Kuchar's been dominating this whole year. Only one missed cut and just been dominant. To me, Kuchar's been the best player this year just because how he's been finishing, how reliable he's been. We haven't had a sweat with Kuchar at all, minus one missed cut where he sucked. So I like Kuchar a lot. Xander has let me down like once or twice this week, but I said this before, Xander's one of my favorite players on tour, if not my favorite. So taking the bias out of there, yes, Kuchar and Stenson for me. It's a tough question, though. I get why you're asking it. Best option would be make 4 builds if you're making GPPs and kind of just mix and match those 4 in there accordingly. All right. Do you like Rahm? Looks like he's finding his form. I do not like Rahm, and the biggest reason why is because of driving accuracy, and he kind of just is a mental case. Now, mostly the reason I don't like him is because of his price point. If he was 9K, I would love him, but at this price point, I just can't pay for it. So I'm not going to be playing Rom this week. Is Hideki, Fleetwood, Scott, Fowler, core too chalky? So, no, definitely not, actually. I don't think many people are talking up Fowler. I do think he was kind of looking past last week, and that's why he didn't play well last week. So, no, I don't think that's going to be chalky. People just don't seem to be on him. We already touched on it a little bit. Fleetwood's getting overlooked a little bit, so no, I don't think that'd be too chalky. I do think Hideki and Scott will be chalky, but in cash, that's something you kind of just got to roll with. And in GPPs, I don't think it'll matter in a major because there's a lot of casual fans playing that just really don't know who they should be targeting. Sometimes that helps them in majors, actually. But any love for, I can't say that name. Why are you giving me a tough name to say? Let me pull him up. I do remember him popping a little bit stat-wise. Let's see here if that's the right player I'm thinking of. I got to see. I don't remember that name. Where is he? What price range is he at? I no love for him. I can't find him. I do remember seeing it, I think, but I can't find him right now. I'll have to answer that question in the comment section if I actually like him. But no, I'm going to say no right now with the ability to go back and change my mind if I find the stats. Sorry about that there. Let's make pizza. All right, so made exact model in 2 ways. All wins and windy only. Joaquin Niemann goes from 10 to 52. Not too bad, actually. No open experience to go on. So my biggest worry with Joaquin Niemann is that he doesn't have that open experience. And then also the fact that he's coming from the John Deere Classic as well. Might have that jet lag. And you think about it, so some of those other players have already been over there and practicing in that nice weather. Niemann played the John Deere Classic. He probably got over there Monday. Didn't really get a practice on Monday. So then he had Tuesday and Wednesday to practice. Tuesday was nice and Wednesday was shitty out. So he hasn't had that much time to practice on the course, ideally. He's had 2 different scenarios. But at his price point on DraftKings, it's kind of a risk I'm willing to take. How much do you take weather into account for your builds? So I am doing 2 separate builds for AM PM. It's about like, I'm sticking with the cash build and stuff that I made. Just going to roll with that because my thing with the player pool is I've made it according to the weather. I don't take weather into account too much typically. This week I am a little bit. But mostly I like to use it as 50-50 decision maker. So say I was stuck on, let me find a good example here. If I was stuck on either Louis Oosthuizen or, I don't know, Ian, no, that's not a good one. Let me find it. If I was stuck in either Mark Leishman or Sergio Garcia, I would go with Mark Leishman because he's a way better weather player. 50-50 decision maker, I'd rather go with Leishman. That's just an example, but that's kind of how I use it. Billy Ho, no. I forget his price range, but he hasn't performed well at the Open recently. And I know he's been a cut maker this year. I do like that. I'd rather go with actually Brent Snedeker. Pretty much the same player, but I just like him a little bit more. It's kind of my thought process. Those 2 players are pretty much the same player to me, but I'd rather go with Snedeker. Gotcha, Jalen. Okay. Let me find the price points here now that we got it. 66. Oh. Yeah, I don't know. I think at the 6.6K range, I'd just rather go with Putnam. He's popping for me more, and then rather just go with Paul Waring. Ryan Palmer is a really good stat fit, actually. And then Nate Lashley. Those are the 4 below, 6.6K that I would roll with, actually. So don't like that. Don't like him as much as those guys. Doc Redman. No, I'm actually mad that Doc's playing in this event. One, I don't think I can play him. I see why you want to. Really good recent form. I wish he was playing in the Barbasol. Not going to lie. He'd probably be 10K, but I wanted to play him this week, but I can't because I don't think he's going to make the cut. Hey, Smoking Guns. Yeah, so I think the strategy will be to go more balanced, but I think that'll be a popular strategy. I don't think the balanced approach will be the winning GPP build, but we're all about making money, and so I do think that's what gives you the most likelihood of cashing. We'll be doing a balance build. All right, so real quick, I want to touch on the Barbasol Championship. Kind of feel free to ask more questions about the Open Championship. I'll be happy to answer them. But real quick, I want to touch on this. So why play? First is there's a lot less focus. Okay? It seems a lot easier to cash in it because there's people not as focused on it. And it seems a lot easier to cash in. And you're still keeping current with the players that are playing well in this. So, kind of like what people were doing playing the Euro the last 3 weeks or so to prepare for the Open Championship. I'm going to play the Barbasol Championship so I can prepare for the next few events. Just so I can keep those players in my mind and keep that knowledge fresh, okay? And I it's like continuing form for me as a PGA DFS player, like we'd look for current form for a golfer. That's what I'm trying to do by playing the Barbasol Championship. And honestly, it's just a lot of fun. It's not that much. You don't have to worry about it that much. If you win, you're typically going to be up there. It's going to be like a top 10 finish, and you're going to play well. If you don't, oh well, you lost a little bit of money, and you still have the Open Championship to focus on, which we should be cashing in anyways. But yeah, I think it has a higher potential to win. I've actually won quite a good number of money on these smaller events, so that's kind of my thought process with the Barbasol Championship. All right, we have any questions, guys? If not, I'm going to be getting out of here pretty quickly here. Just pop up this slide real quick, see if we have any questions. If not, definitely going to get out of here. I will be trying to wake up a little bit earlier, right before tea time, and adjust my lineups if I need to, if the weather says so. For the patrons that are out there, I will be making a slight adjustment right after this live stream. And then be looking right before I go to bed, see if I need to make any changes. I'll make sure to put that on the page for you guys. We did reach our goal of getting over 75, so thank you guys for that. I'm pretty pumped for that. It's pretty cool. But yeah, other than that, I'm pretty excited for this week. So if we don't have any more questions, I'm going to head out. Thanks to you guys for watching.